So let me say a little bit more about my island home, Hawaii, and link its past to our present and future. And it helps me understand why it's so important that we're here together, sharing this topic and our understanding. So as I mentioned, Hawaiians had developed a highly reciprocal and integrated relationship with their home. And again, some of this was described yesterday in the amazing student presentations. And I think those are available if some of you are interested in watching it. I know they were recorded, but I want to mention a few of the bits of island wisdom that really shaped how Hawaii has approached sustainability. One is the concept of the ahupua'a. So that is a region of land that begins at the top of the mountains, extends down through the valleys, the ridges on each side, to the lowlands and often flatlands by the coastline, and into the ocean, all the way to the reef. And they understood how the rain at the top needed to be allowed to flow down. It might have been adapted to support different forms of agriculture, in particular the growing of taro, which was the staple starch in Hawaii, but still allowing that water to flow down to all the way to the ocean, where it might commingle with seawater and become part of an aquaculture system in contained fish ponds right at the coast to help provide protein. They understood when and how to harvest fish, so that, and this came up yesterday again with the students, that parrotfish are very hard. Actually, it was a faculty presentation yesterday. Parrotfish are very difficult to find here now because they're a coastal fish that has been overfished, and Okinawan fishermen need to go farther out to sea. The Hawaiians understood when you should stop fishing and allow the species to regenerate. And they had seasons, the term was kapu, when certain fish were kapu, or they had to be a certain size in order to be taken hundreds and hundreds of years ago. They had limited agriculture, both what they found, but they often brought foodstuffs with them. Bananas, sweet potatoes, taro were canoe plants, we call them, that were brought with them because they knew they would be helpful in sustaining life. They did bring animals as well, small domestic pigs, not like the large wild pigs we see today, supported them, and they were kept highly domesticated as well. So Hawaii is believed to have supported a population of about 800,000 to 1 million before Western contact. So that's not much smaller than Hawaii, actually like Okinawa, supports about 1.4 million people today. But unlike when we were supporting 800,000 to 1 million completely self-sustainably, today at 1.4 million, we're estimated to have about 10 days of food on the island, and we grow less than 10% of our own food as well. The rest of it has to be brought in. So how exactly did that happen? Well, Western civilization brought many things. For Hawaii, we had native sandalwood forests. Sandalwood was highly prized, and the sandalwood forests were completely decimated. It's unusual. You don't see sandalwood forests at all, and you rarely see sandalwood trees even, although they are still available. But once the forest started being destroyed, then you lose your watershed, and the impacts on the rest of the environment are really quite catastrophic. This was advanced by the introduction of Western pigs, cattle, goat, sheep for the sailors who stopped off and wanted to eat the foods they had. Those animals ran wild, decimated the native plants that had no defenses because they had all evolved over millions of years before any contact, and certainly were not prepared for the onslaught of having their roots trampled and their bark stripped, their leaves eaten. and we lost so much of what had evolved there naturally. In fact, yesterday it was commented that Hawaii, like Okinawa and Taiwan, are among the places that are have the greatest level of risk to species and extinction. We've often said that if Darwin had landed in Hawaii, he would have understood speciation and evolution probably even more quickly, looking at some of what happened there. Sailors brought mosquitoes, which brought avian malaria, which devastated the native bird population. And again, the birds had no defenses against that. The birds were necessary for pollination of some of the forest, and that also contributed to the loss of our watershed, erosion, and runoff into the fish ponds that then became overrun with mud during rains. The plantations completely razed, devastated all of the lowland forests, and there was massive diversion of the streams that used to feed the taro patches and run into the fish ponds. That was all diverted for irrigation to support the plantations, so that nothing in the lowlands on any Hawaiian island looks anything like it did even 200 or so years ago. The plantations were all export crops, sugar and pineapple. None of that was really critical to the sustainability of Hawaii, only the economic activity. And when the plantations became economically unviable, largely because in Hawaii there was a commitment to pay a living wage, sugar and pineapple can be much more cheaply grown in places where they can find labor for $1 a day rather than $8 an hour. And Hawaii, the government leaders made a conscious decision as the plantations were fading out economically to shift to a tourism-based economy. And I think here I need say nothing about the impacts of a tourism-based economy and its impacts on all the environment and society. So that's all interesting, but not directly helpful as we think about the future. So what I want to convey today is that we can still find wisdom from those past practices to guide us in creating a more sustainable future. And islands do have a unique and valuable set of insights from our past. This is not about a return to a subsistence lifestyle. This is about learning from those practices and blending the best of those traditional indigenous bits of island wisdom with modern science when appropriately applied. And there is no reason these cannot coexist, and in fact, they strengthen one another when we get it right. This is something we share with one another, Hawaii, Okinawa, Taiwan. Although our languages are different, we have so much in common as island peoples and island communities. And this is one of the reasons we enter into these academic partnerships that have been mentioned. Our deepest partnership in Okinawa is with Ryudai, and I'm happy to see current and former president here as well. These relationships have to last longer than any one president to be sustained, and both community members and others help ensure that to happen. But I'll say every UH president since the 1980s has visited this campus. We have all planted a tree. I am the 6th, and yesterday I could visit my tree, and I'm happy to report it is still alive and thriving. So yesterday when we saw the students, it was amazing. They visited all of our islands, from Kauai Community College, our oldest and northernmost island, to University of Hawaii at Hilo, which is on our newest and southernmost island. And as I mentioned, their reflections were amazing. And we have other relationships here in Okinawa with Mayo University as well, the Okinawa Prefectural College of Nursing, the Okinawa Prefectural College of the Arts, the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology, OIST, and the Okinawa Prefectural Government actually co-sponsors with the East-West Center a scholarship program, the Obuchi program, now in its 25th year, that sends Okinawa students to University of Hawaii, for graduate students. Similarly, Taiwan is an important partner for us. We have over 10 active agreements there with multiple institutions involving student exchanges, scientific research, ranging from the bottoms of the ocean. We have a space collaboration working with a university there on an instrument that's up on the International Space Station, where we work together with their physicists. We collaborate on language and culture. We have a library exchange agreement. So all kinds of ways that we work together. And I've been in educational exchanges with one of their indigenous groups that is facilitated, in fact, by the Polynesian Voyaging Society with Kamehameha Schools in Hawaii. Last year, I actually took a whirlwind tour of 9 universities in Taiwan in 4 days, facilitated by their Ministry of Education, to meet university and explore opportunities. So let me share some examples of what it might look like. And these are very brief vignettes when we start to get it right about bringing traditional island wisdom together with modern science. We have a group of advanced microbial geneticists collaborating with Native Hawaiian practitioners to understand not just the visible ecosystems in an entire ahupua'a, from mountaintop through to coral reef. They're looking at microbial life and how that influences the environment and human uses and activities within that environment, including in the different micro-regions on that entire pathway from summit to sea. In another ahupua'a, we have UH faculty, researchers, and students engaging in full restoration. This is an ahupua'a that was ravaged by development. And in that case, they're trying to also explore the economic opportunities that can provide more sustainable living. Again, everything from the summit through thriving taro production into the restoration of fish ponds, with some of our great marine biologists looking at that as well. Our aquaculture experts are working with those traditional fish ponds that I mentioned. We have spent a few decades physically restoring them, rebuilding the rock walls that were there hundreds of years ago, and now we're learning how do we actually grow fish in them for food. We are growing ulu, or breadfruit, which is a highly nutritious plant known throughout the Pacific, trying to bring that back into the diet with recipes that can appeal to the modern palate. It's a real opportunity, again, something the students highlighted yesterday, the importance of traditional diet to health. And my colleague, Dr. Brian Yamamoto from Kauai Community College, has an amazing project called Ulutopia, working on that problem and setting examples for us throughout the islands. We're looking at scientific approaches to reduce mosquito populations to protect the native birds. Genetic engineering is not very popular with many people, so we're looking at opportunities to breed sterile male mosquitoes that will breed with females, create no offspring. And we have birds, in particular on Brian's Island of Kauai, that may not be there in 3 years, an entire species, if we don't figure out how to get a handle on mosquitoes. The reason this is a new problem is that with climate change, mosquitoes don't like cold weather, but the warm weather is moving up in the mountains into the habitat of native birds. And this is not, and the birds are beautiful, and you can Google, but it's not just about the birds. They are the pollinators for many of the native plant life that is necessary to maintain the ecosystems as well. Let me hit one notion of language, and it, again, it also came up with the students yesterday. So soon after Western contact, Hawaii became one of the most literate societies on the planet. There were well over 100 Hawaiian language newspapers throughout the islands, and this was in a society that had written language for less than probably 60 years. It was the missionaries figured out how to take the oral Hawaiian language and write it. And Hawaiian royalty embraced literacy like nobody you have ever seen. 90% literacy rate. I don't know if we have that today in most of the US. Those materials are now being translated with the restoration of the Hawaiian language, something that our university was really involved in doing. We were probably in the range of about 100 native speakers of Hawaiian in the 1970s, now over 20,000. And a lot of that is the work done by colleagues within the university and their collaborators in the community, including creating immersion schools. So we now have children speaking Hawaiian as they go from kindergarten through high school as their first language of instruction. And they do very well in college. They succeed. It is absolutely working. The knowledge of the language is allowing us to unlock those publications of 150, 175 years ago to understand environmental conditions firsthand. This is knowledge that was lost and is only captured in Hawaiian language. Finally, I want to mention this is a time of high conflict and pressure in the U.S. over many, many challenging questions. And I know our politics must be perplexing to all of you. They're perplexing to many of us as well. Within the university where we're under, that is where conflict breaks out first in many cases in the U.S. among college students. And we are turning to traditional Hawaiian values to help us understand how to navigate that in a manner of peace and harmony among our people. So those are some examples. Each of our island communities has its own challenges, but they're very similar in many, many cases. And that's why our collaborations and partnerships can be so powerful. We have partnerships in law, in healthcare, and in other areas that I think can also shed light, not necessarily the specific solutions, but the approaches that we take in each of our island communities. And there's this work in culture as well that can help us create more sustainable and thriving conditions. And it's really important to remember that when we are sharing, we're not just teaching, but we're learning as well if we keep our hearts and our minds open to two-way conversations. So that's why I believe universities are so important. In fact, the most important institution for our shared future. That's why we need to work together to share our island wisdom for island sustainability. So mahalo, thank you for your kind attention, and aloha.
Thank you very much, Dr. David Lassner. Thank you so much for your insightful message on the role of universities and the importance of the island's wisdom and indigenous knowledge and practice for island sustainability. Universities are crucial contributors to our shared future, especially when we engage with the local communities to work toward the sustainability. Thank you for reminding us the value of learning together and contribute our collaborative effort. Thank you again for your great lecture. Now, we would like to open the floor for questions. If you have any questions and comments, please raise your hands and we will bring a microphone to you. And you can ask a question in Japanese or English, and we can translate for Dr. Lassner. And for online participants, please feel free to submit your questions through Zoom Q&A functions, and we will read them loud for President Lassner. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Hello, I'm Daniel Chinen from East West Center. President Lassner, you talked about the Hokulea, traveling and navigating. Hokulea also came to Okinawa, but I understand you've been on the Hokulea. Can you tell us a little about the actual watercraft?
Sure. So the Hokulea is our traditional voyaging canoe, about to celebrate its 50th anniversary, in fact. Did you want to translate the question? Or? Oh, we're okay. Okay, so it is legendary in Hawaii. So the voyage that really woke up Hawaii and the Pacific was in 1976, and that was the first time in hundreds of years that anyone had navigated between Hawaii and Tahiti. It's over 2,000 miles. And the students yesterday talked about the interest in understanding and I think the word was re-inhabiting, which was a new word for me, some of the traditions of Okinawa. And we enjoyed, I think in the 1970s, it's referred to as the Hawaiian Renaissance. And the Hokulea was a big part of it because it not only instilled pride for Hawaiians in their history and heritage, and they had suffered through colonization and the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom. I won't draw parallels. You may want to do so. But that, along with music, with the restoration of hula dancing, really not only helped Hawaiians feel pride in their heritage, and Hawaiians are about 22% of the population in Hawaii today, but actually it instilled pride of everyone in Hawaii like nothing else had really done about the importance of indigenous history, culture, knowledge, and capabilities. It was really a remarkable time. So my time in Hawaii, I always admired it. It was something special that I thought would never touch my life. But when I became president, the Polynesian Voyaging Society decided to embark on, this is to me a totally crazy idea. They were going to sail the Hokulea. It's about a 50-foot voyaging canoe, holds 12 people. You sleep in the hull on a 2-foot by 6-foot foam pad on a piece of plywood. You have a crew of typically about 12, 4 hours on, 8 hours off, and then you're back on duty full time. So they wanted to sail it around the world, places no voyaging canoe had ever gone through. Anyway, so they came to the university, and Nainoa, that's when I really first met him, asked for the support of the university because he's passionate about education. Of course, I said yes. I visited it when it was stopped in Auckland, in Aotearoa. And when I watched the interaction between the crew members, the leadership, school children in Aotearoa, we were greeted one day by 2,000 school children at a disadvantaged school, mostly with Pacifica people, students from the Pacific Islands, who had prepared for a year learning about voyaging the Pacific and Hokulea, and this was the biggest thing that was going to happen to them in their elementary school careers, was to have this canoe visit. And so then I got home and I asked Nainoa, I'm not really a sailor, but could I experience it as a crew member? So long story short, the next year I was on the crew for 3 weeks between Washington, D.C. and New York. If you can picture a traditional voyaging canoe, probably you've seen pictures like passing the Washington Monument, coming in through the Statue of Liberty. It was really quite remarkable. To speak to the visit to Okinawa, one of my fellow crew members, was a woman from Okinawa who she was our quartermaster during that leg. She's a navigator in training, and I still see her regularly. She sometimes captains legs with the Hokulea, and you can just see her experience was when Hokulea came here, she was so moved by it as an island person that she moved to Hawaii to become part of it, and is a very active crew member and leader, and may perhaps one day be navigating. maybe I love graduations as a president, but that may have been the most remarkable experience that I had as a university president, was spending 3 weeks with the Hokulea. Yeah.
We have one comment from the Zoom session, if I may read it. Thank you. I agree with your colleagues that optimism is not a strategy. My question is that tourism has a significant impact on the environment and ecology of islands, but at the same time, it also provides economic support to the islands. So my question is, how should we strike a balance? Because Okinawa is also a place highly dependent on tourism.
Thank you. That's a great question. So I thought about this a lot during the pandemic, and I don't know what life was like here, but in Hawaii, we went in 1 week from the lowest unemployment rate in the country, in the US, to the highest unemployment rate in the country because we shut down tourism in 1 week in response to the pandemic. So it was an economic catastrophe. We had students who, both parents worked in the tourism industry, both lost their jobs, and were struggling to continue to afford to go to school. But at the same time, we saw what life was like without, and we get about 10 million tourists a year typically up to then, without 10 million extra people on our roads, on our beaches, on our hiking trails. That part of life was wonderful if you had a job. And so it's exactly the tension that comment is describing. What I thought about, and I started talking this way during the pandemic, how will the university help lead our way out of economic dependence on that form of tourism? So part of that for us is, what do we do to stimulate other economic activities? Nothing will be as big as tourism, but maybe many smaller things can contribute to economic activity. And it's not like every tourism job is a great job. I mean, most people don't get up and aren't raised to say, gosh, when I grow up, I hope that I can change the sheets in a hotel. And apologies, it's an honorable profession, but it's not something that most people aspire to do. So when I was thinking about tourism, and I'm not brilliant, and this is not my original ideas, but how do we get to a form of sustainable tourism that creates more high quality jobs? That's what I was thinking about. Those other jobs will be there. So ecotourism, people can get up and be proud of saying, I brought a group of visitors who care about the environment on a hike to see our unique Hawaiian native plants and animals in a respectful manner. Cooking, we have diverse population. How do we find ways to have tourists come, and this is a form of edutourism. People of every culture can share their cooking. Everyone loves to do it, and give cooking lessons. Chinese cooking, Japanese cooking, Okinawan cooking, Korean cooking, Southeast Asian cooking. Those are interesting jobs that somebody can get up in the morning and be happy to go to work, sharing their culture with others. I think hula is huge in Japan, so teaching hula dancing. Ukulele, playing ukulele, making ukulele, traditional crafts. So if you start thinking about engaging tourists in activities so that they're doing more than just occupying a hotel room, going to the grocery store to buy the cheapest food they can find, lying around on the beaches in the sun. Those are the opportunities where we create additional jobs for people that really engage them in sharing something they love with visitors who are there, who are there to learn. And I think it's a shift in how we market ourselves, and Hawaii is really actively moving in that direction. And interestingly, I will say now, the three major tourism leadership positions in our state are all held by Native Hawaiians today. None of that was true just 3 years ago.
Dr. Lesnar, what is the effect of Zoom education and in-person education at the University of Hawaii?
Before I was president, my background is in IT. You may have picked that up from my introduction. And I was actually, my whole career was operating, managing, directing, leading IT in the University of Hawaii. It's the only place I've had a job. Somewhere along the line, about 30 years ago, one of my responsibilities as the director of IT was creating a distance learning program with colleagues statewide to all of our islands. We have 10 campuses spread across, and learning centers actually including on 6 islands. And so when these were complicated and difficult systems, so when Zoom came along, we embraced it before the pandemic for our distance learning program. It was easier than a lot of the complex technology that we had before. So when the pandemic hit, we, like most universities in the US, went to Zoom or something equivalent, pretty much 100%, maybe 95%. Some of the trades classes needed to be done. Some of the healthcare classes really needed to be done in person. So what's interesting now is watching what do we go back to. So we're not going to go back to the way it was completely. We're watching students make decisions, and they don't always make the best decisions for themselves, to be honest, about navigating how much online education works and how much they really need to be in person. For adults who want to go back to school and get a degree to improve their job standing, online opportunities, whether by Zoom, and I want to expand that to say Zoom is not really, it's not the best form of online education. It's the easiest form of online education, but you can do some really powerful things. As Brian and I met probably 45 years ago when I was working with computers in education. That's how I got my start in this business. Before the internet and before the PC, you can do a really effective job of teaching if you work hard at it. So I'm a huge fan of online learning. And I think the key is, what is the right solution for each student, and how do we support our faculty in being able to meet students where they are to give them the learning opportunities they need. The one thing we know is that students learn when they are actively engaged, when the wheels are turning in their brain. And for different students, that can happen in different ways. But in person, in a big room, I'm looking around. Most of you are at least looking at me. You're not really asleep. That's good. So you're engaging. But if you have 100 students in a large classroom, that's not what's going on in the back of the room. It's very hard to keep everybody engaged, and online technologies can really help with that. So I think the pandemic opened a lot of eyes to what's possible, but it would be tragic if we thought that was the solution, because it's not. It's a part of, it's a tool.
Hi, my name is Kinjo from Global Education Section. Thank you very much for your keynote speech. It gave us a deep insight of how important the people on Pacific Islands work together for island sustainability. So I'd like to ask you, in order to take advantage of island wisdom and then make contribution to solve the common issues for island sustainability, which research field do you think would be more essential for research collaboration between University of Hawaii and University of the Ryukyus?
Wow. You know, it's interesting because university presidents don't get to decide what anybody actually does. It's a dirty little secret. Faculty do what faculty want to do. We can help suggest with carrots, but we can't really stop them from exploring. So I think our job as leaders is to motivate others to have the really good ideas. And again, I would just say that what I saw yesterday was so hopeful to see the students, and ideally our faculty will also work together. But they hit almost everything that's important, in those remarks. Human health, homelessness, student affordability to be able to go to college and food pantries, ecosystems, voyaging, language, identity. Seriously, I was just astonished, amazed, and proud of what has really happened. So this may be a case when hopefully our faculty will follow our students rather than the other way around.
Okay, no more questions. Would you like to ask any other questions? Okay. Hi.
Thank you very much for your wonderful lectures. I'm from the law school of the Ryukyu University, and you may know that our students goes to Richardson Law School for 2 weeks, and they have the very, very good experience to know about the American law and also the Hawaiian law, and they are very impressed to know about how the law is working in your society. And also the students have the chance to meet with, for example, the Kuba-san and the Hawaiian Japanese society. And it's a great opportunity for our students. And luckily, some of the students could pass the bar exam in Japan. And they're working in the Okinawa society as a lawyer. And I just say thank you for you. And I really appreciate that to giving us such a kind of the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have embraced, my remarks are not just me. I probably got as much wrong as I got right. But this is the way we increasingly drive our strategy as a university across the entire system. So we talk about being Native Hawaiian place of learning, indigenous focused, indigenous centered. And for example, in our law school, we're known for a few things. It's a small law school. It is not Harvard or Yale or Berkeley, but we have one of the best environmental law programs in the country because that is so important to us. We have one of the best programs and for us it's Native Hawaiian law, but it really specializes in indigenous law because that is so important to us and our community. We're not so good, they'll be insulted if I say this, but we're not a top 5 law school in tort reform, in intellectual property, but we're looking at indigenous intellectual property. So we try to make that the focus of what we do rather than, everything that everyone else does. And I think it's part of why, these research areas that I mentioned, I think are so special and unique to Hawaii because we are embracing our place and our people and our problems. So thank you.
Sorry, President Lesnar. I actually have a question for you.
From you?
Yes. Is it okay? From me, sorry. From
Okay.
me. So over yesterday and today, we've learned how island wisdom should shape the way forward for not just our universities, but also our societies and communities. I would just like to ask you if you could provide one principle taken from the island wisdoms of Hawaii that has shaped your direction in life, what would it be?
Wow. I can't do one. I'm retiring at the end of the year. This is my last 2 months as president. So people ask, I've had to talk about myself more in the last 2 months than I have the whole 47 years I've been at the university. But I think a few things shaped me and why this is how I approach my job today. One is my first day in Hawaii. So I was 22 years old and I met people who were hikers. So my first weekend in Hawaii, I was hiking in the native forest and learning native plants, most of which I have now forgotten. But the forest experience really made me appreciate Hawaii more than Waikiki and the university and everything else. And I was doing hiking and service projects and restoring native environment. So that's my sort of physical bucket. A second that I will mention is I was in Hawaii about 3 months and I saw a traditional hula performance and it just struck something inside me. And the next semester I enrolled in a hula class at the university and I'm dormant now, but over many years I spent a lot of time in hula. It's called a halau, it's a traditional school of hula, and made very close friends and close relationships around that. I never learned to speak the language. I regret that, but it is something I would recommend. And then the last thing I'd mention, which I've already shared, is the hokulea experience. And I think what it did for me is it connected me to people who cared about the place in different ways than a typical somebody who shows up as a tourist. And I thought I was only going to be there for 1 year. But now, out of appreciation for that, I have really spent a lot of my time, effort, and investment in trying to help the entire university understand the importance of our connection to the people and place of Hawaii, creating a Native Hawaiian Place of Learning office, creating strategic plans driven by Hawaiian leaders throughout the university has really made a difference. So.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay. I think that's very much. Okay, thank you so much for your lectures. Please join me in first. Thank you. ありがとうございます。Okay. Now, I would like to invite Executive Vice President Masahide Ishihara of the University of the Ryukyus to deliver the closing remarks.
Hi, Sai. Aloha and ni hao. 琉大副学長の石原八重便未出張 T 歌美総理 This is in Okinawa. Dear colleagues and participants, as we conclude our two-day symposium on the inter-island sustainability education program, I would like to express my sincere thanks to everyone whose dedication made this event a true success. Over the two-day discussions, collaboration in facing shared challenges across Okinawa, Hawaii, and Taiwan, and beyond. During the symposium, we explored essential topics like renewable energy, well-being, environmental protection, and coexistence. We were inspired by insights from experts, educators, and especially our students. Their presentation showed us how local initiatives and knowledge sharing help keep traditional practices alive and guide our path to a sustainable progress. President Lassner shared a meaningful vision of how the wisdom of island communities offers valuable lessons for a sustainable practices worldwide. This connects with current discussions on Anthropocene, which highlight the lasting effects of human activities on our planet. Although the Anthropocene is not yet an official epoch, the signs of human impact from microplastics to changing climate patterns remind us of our global responsibility and need for cooperation. Finally, I'd like to appreciate our partners from the UH Hiro, Kapiolani Community College, Kauai Community College, National Donghua University, and Chinese Culture University. Let us carry forward this spirit of collaboration and continue building our inter-island knowledge networks. Next year, we look forward to meeting again in Taiwan. Thank you all for your participation and ongoing commitment to our shared goals. Ipe nihe devil, mahalo nui loa, sheishenin, and thank you. And mata ya nin Taiwan wuti ichabira nayasai. And in English, see you in Taiwan next year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Executive Vice President Ishihara, Dr. Ishihara. Okay, this concludes the end of the 23rd University of the Ryukyu Mirai Kyosou Forum, co-hosted by Inter-Island Sustainability Educational Program at the University of the Ryukyu. Thank you again for joining us, both in person and online, and we look forward to seeing you at the next event. Thank you so much. Aloha and sheishe mahalo and ipe nihe debiru. Thank you.